All right, man. So we're recording. Let's just riff it.
All right, we're recording. This is Side 3 Free Radio, broadcasting to you from the compound. I am Russ Tornado.
Yeah, and I'm his ne'er-do-well partner in crime, Salary Man. Just as weary, just as tired. We're somewhere in the middle of Moonso, probably. Near an establishment, piano bar. You might know it.
Making enemies of the Federation, not allowing the Titans to control our fates.
Absolutely. Thoughts of revolution aside, we're here to talk about our favorite things here, all things related to anime, manga, everything in between. Tonight we're actually discussing a bit about Kaiju No. 8, a series that's blown up pretty hard on the Jump Plus and Manga Plus platforms right now.
Yeah, it's gotten a pretty good English reception, and it's already a big hit in Japan. It's up to about 41 chapters right now. 3 collected volumes in Japan, about to have a 4th. I would definitely see this in the next year, maybe getting a anime announcement towards the end of next year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that typically it's been the case that a series needs to hit around 100 chapters or so before an anime announcement even comes through. But we've seen that as time progresses, it looks like studios are willing to shoot on titles earlier and earlier, so long as there's author involvement. And in regards to this mangaka, this series is written by Matsumoto Naoya.
Yeah, this is his 3rd work that he's gotten in Jump. He's had 2 previous serializations, one in Jump Plus and one in Weekly, and neither of them went particularly long.
I mean, the good thing is you can get them both in completed volumes. I believe that Nekowappa came out in 2009. That's about 2 volumes, if I'm not mistaken. That one's an interesting one. It's about cat gods, and they adopt a baby that is abandoned at their shrine. And that child then helps them perform miracles and gets up the mischief. Whereas the other one is Pochi Kuro, that came out in 2014. That one has like a little bit of an isekai riff to it, whereas about a young woman who finds herself in the realm of demons, but she can't speak with them and they can't really understand her. But one demon in particular adopts her essentially as a pet, by and large, and they have wacky adventures from there. If you've read either of these, please let us know if they're worth checking out. Hit us in the comments below if you're checking us up on YouTube. If you're on SoundCloud or Spotify, just listen in. Unfortunately, there's not much more you can really do from there. But we're more than happy to know if this is something you want to hear us talk about in the future, of course. But anyway, back to the main thing.
Find a platform to yell at us wherever you can find it.
Scream if you can. But as far as Kaiju No. 8, I believe that you're the one who turned me on to this one. You were reading this well before I got into it.
Yeah, it was absolutely one that I followed pretty much from its start in Jump Plus, and I've been singing its praises pretty much ever since then. I sing the praises of this, I sing the praises of Chainsaw Man. Now, of course, Chainsaw Man is getting big. I'm not saying that when I say something will become big.
Man. We want Chainsaw Man.
I'm not saying that I am a predictor. I'm not saying that the masses move to my desires and my wills.
No, you're not saying that at all.
But I am inferring it. So.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. After all, where Russ Tornado goes, the rest of us follow.
I consider this is one of my new favorites. It's published, 3 times a month is the goal, but it usually ends up being bi-monthly at this point.
My understanding is that Matsumoto decided he initially kept to a weekly schedule, and then it shifted. He shifted to 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And honestly, I feel like that's a schedule I'd be very happy with any mangaka that's operating in the scene right now that operates on a weekly publishing schedule. I think that with a lot of the news that we've had, or like some of the revelations we've had in regards to mangaka and their health issues, or just the struggles of keeping that kind of schedule, it would be nice to know that the people who make the things that we love to hate, or at least the things that we like to discuss, are able to do those things while maintaining something resembling a sense of work-life balance.
I think the work ends up better.
Oh yeah, definitely. No question.
I believe that when you have that opportunity to really put some more polish into it, you don't end up with chapters that need to be fixed in Tanko as much.
Yeah, and not to name any names, I mean, I recall at one point Horikoshi, My Hero Academia, had a really rough chapter at one point, and since then we really haven't seen that, thankfully. But for someone whose art, their A game is really strong, and to see their B game degrade to that level, assuming that if you're on a weekly publishing schedule, your B game also needs to be serviceable, it's kind of disappointing. It's kind of depressing just to see an artist struggle that way.
Yeah, and I mean, look at what we just saw recently. Gigi Akutami of Jujutsu Kaisen fame
Dude likes massages. What can I say?
Well, he's in that situation where he took a month off just because he was so backed up and he was so crushed by the workload that he was putting in. It was just unsustainable.
Oh yeah, and that's definitely a series I think we're going to talk about in the future. I think that's something we both enjoy reading. It's a blast. It gives us kind of that Team 7 vibe, right? That you would see from an older series like Naruto. A 3-man band as opposed to a 5-man.
It's Naruto and Bleach married together.
Well, don't say that.
Works.
Don't say that because some fans are just going to lose it. That being said, we're here to talk about Kaiju number 8, which is something I really enjoy, just for the perspective of art. That's usually where I like to start whenever I discuss something like this. Like the actual story itself is pretty straightforward. It's about a lovable loser who aspires to be more than he is. Go ahead and talk about some of the setting. Well, you seem to be, again, sort of our lore master when it comes to this.
Main character, Kafka Habino, which is a very loaded name. It's very much Franz Kafka.
Yeah,
writer.
Nice Metamorphosis reference for sure.
Yeah, writer of the novel Metamorphosis, which is a story about a man being transformed against his will into a form that is not of his choosing, except in this case, the form is very beneficial to our main character.
In some ways, for sure. In other ways, it causes complications.
He starts his job as a garbage collector, more or less, cleaning up after the battles of giant monsters.
Oh, yeah. And definitely, if you want like a reference point for this, think of in Pacific Rim, Guillermo del Toro vehicle, where you see these giant monsters or kaiju being destroyed or defeated within city centers or populated areas. And then you would have people who would come in and take the organs and the pieces and parts and then sell them on the black market. In this case, corporations lay claim to pieces and parts of these kaiju that are defeated by general officers, essentially, a wing of the Japanese ground self-defense forces, but they are separate and otherwise independent from them. Our main character is somebody who's essentially a parts breaker. He goes in after the heroes have saved the day, and he goes in and cuts apart kaiju parts, harvests organs, cleans out intestines, which is one of the more notable scenes early on in the very first chapter, which they're the only scene that's censored in the entire run of the manga to date. So,
but he has higher ambitions. He wants to be an officer. He wants to fight kaiju, and he wants to join his beautiful childhood friend.
Oh my goodness.
Standing aside with her as monster fighters. But he's at the age limit. If he does not join the force by the time he is 35, he is out.
33, actually.
Is it 33?
Yeah, sorry to correct you like that, but it is 33. And it's an interesting commentary because this manga kind of changes tones very abruptly early on, where you have notions of declining birth rates, so they increase the eligibility age to 33. And then you have this person who is, for all intents and purposes, a guy who is satisfied more or less with being a loser. He has a nice apartment, he gets to drink all the beer that he wants, he has a steady job. He knows that he is not general officer material, but with a new hire onto his team, that is something that galvanizes him to change himself, to strive one more time for his childhood dream. And that's where that metamorphosis occurs. He saves a new coworker of his, and while he's recovering in the hospital, a kaiju, possibly a yoju in this case. There are two different kinds of kaiju in this world. You have honju, which are the main kaiju that you see, the big bads, the big bruisers, and you have yoju, which are their underlings, or their lackeys, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, only the big ones get numbers, and the main character, because he's transformed into a kaiju, whenever a big kaiju appears, they identify it by number, and he is identified as Kaiju number 8.
Yes, any notable kaiju in this setting is given a number designation. That's something that definitely comes up later, but we're not going to talk about that just at this moment. But again, that tonal shift is really interesting because at first you almost get the sense it's like a seinen manga because it features a bunch of guys who are not on the front lines, they are not important, but they still help society function.
I got a very Planetes vibe from this manga, especially at first. It's such a work a day, work with getting up, going to work, the dealing with getting older, the dealing with not having necessarily achieved your dreams. And then it kind of does start to take a shift towards a more shonen edge, towards a more traditional. He does start to achieve his dreams. He does start to move towards what he is, his objectives.
Yeah, he starts taking those first steps forward. And just for those of you who are listening to us who don't know what Planet Test is, we both highly recommend this. Honestly, we should talk about it. Planet Test is so good. I'm weird in that I like the anime as well as the manga, but the manga is superior in my mind.
You gotta rape the space you love.
Oh no, we're not. No, we're gonna cut that one.
It's a good line though. It's the best line from the whole book.
It really is.
It's so mean.
But Planet Test is a manga written by and drawn by Yukimura Makoto. And you will know them as also the same mangaka behind Vinland Saga, which I believe has an Amazon Prime series.
Just got its first season. It's about to hit its second season. It's very hot. Everybody likes it. I will say the manga starts to sort of
it meanders.
Run off a cliff. I don't really know. I think it's going to come to an end pretty soon.
Well, regardless, you let us know what you think about Vinland Saga. Again, it's something we both read, something we're both more than willing to talk about because, well, what else are we doing with our time? And just for note, in regards to the Planet Test adaptation, that is done by Sunrise. So, which I generally trust Sunrise whenever it comes to an anime adaptation. Even if it's mediocre, usually it's still good copy. That being said, in regards to, back to Kaiju number 8, of course, so Kafka Hibino, he does sort of merge with a kaiju. A kaiju sort of forces itself into him. And this is early on. This is in chapter 1. And he becomes our eponymous Kaiju number 8. And the manga kind of shifts away from the cleaning up after the heroes. And it becomes more of a traditional shonen story of a person who is not on the traditional path of success, who seeks to be in that rarefied air with the great ones. He wants to stand alongside his childhood companion. He wants to be somebody. He wants to be the guy.
Well, the funny thing is that at first he gets these powers, but he wants to make sure that he qualifies for his position based on his abilities rather than just to use his powers. Although he's immediately afraid that if he uses his powers, they'll come out and kill him.
Oh, absolutely. As like most of the characters express a deep-seated hatred of kaiju. Kaiju have been around at one point, well, I believe the manga even notes, since the Muromachi period in some capacity. So kaiju are not a new phenomenon for this setting. They are something that has been accounted for time and again the world over, with Japan just so happening to be the epicenter of kaiju incursions as well as kaiju slaying.
So they create a lot of lore early on, and he creates a lot. I think one of the things I really do like about this series is how much work he puts into like seeding story ideas that aren't necessarily paid off all at once, and where he can go from there. And that's one of the things I like the most, is just imagining where the series is going to take us.
Well, that's the thing. We're 40 chapters in, so it's a relatively young series, even though, based on that schedule, we're looking at about a year and a half's worth of work, if not more. And it still feels really fresh. Like, you're always kind of off balance as a reader. You have an idea of where it is going, but the characters, though they are not always important, when they do become important, be it the principal characters or supporting cast, they're always interesting. Whenever they do show up, they do something. Either they reveal a little bit about themselves, or they do something that absolutely rules.
He doesn't just screw around in this series. He's moving very quickly through his story, and I respect that, and I respect a lot of the young creators that are working in like shonen manga right now are eschewing doing 300 plus 400 plus 500 plus chapter series and literally trying to milk every ounce of story that they can. Rather, they're paying off these expectations that people have and putting together a really good highlight reel of a series.
I believe there's a very early training arc that happens, but it's more meant to progress the story, representing Kafka's first steps towards becoming a general officer, right? And it doesn't feel painful. It doesn't feel contrived. It's simply part of the process of becoming someone who stands above the rest, right? And it's over very quickly while also introducing really interesting plot threads.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Nothing ever gets to the point where it is boring to you.
Oh, no, not at all.
The gears are always changing. As soon as you've kind of gotten used to what's happening and maybe you feel like you've seen it already, they move into something different, or he finds a way to raise the stakes and change the game and, introduce new drama. And it is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, we've talked a bit about the plot, the characters, and so forth. Only in brief, we've only mentioned the main character. Again, the supporting cast, when they do come up, they're generally very interesting. Like the new hire, Reno, is someone who possibly could be a captain at some point. He is at that level where he's just improving over and over and over again. And this series indulges in all of those very tried and true archetypes. You have the genius, you have the rich kid, you have the musclehead, you have the scheming fox-eyed person. It has all the things that like you're familiar with if you have ever like even come within a hair's breadth of a shonen manga. But they remain very fresh, they remain very interesting. No character is ever put into place without a purpose, without a reason, it seems.
A lot of big backs in this, a lot of brotherhood, a lot of friendship for a series that didn't seem like it was about that much. And, just a lot of working together and believing in each other, it is a shonen series, so you're going to get that. But I really like every character that he's introduced.
That's the thing. Even early on, you see that from Kafka's Supervisor, where it's like, it's like he's a little odd, but once he's in there, he's in there.
That'd be Soshiro Hoshina?
No. That's later. I'm talking about a supervisor as part of Monster Sweepers Incorporated.
Oh.
Where he assigns him to clean out the intestines, which is a terrible job. But he's like, he's a go-getter. It's like, maybe if he could, just like dig his heels in, maybe he could pass the examination process to become a general officer. But he's one of those people who probably had the right stuff, who just lost his way. And it's kind of satisfying seeing his progression throughout the story. However, we talked about this a bit. I really want to get into the art because that's the thing that I tend to care about the most whenever I read manga like this. And I know we've been talking a bit about shonen manga in our last few recordings. I promise we will talk about other genres. I believe that Ross Tornado is a big fan of seinen manga as well. Also has an appreciation for josei, just as I do. I actually like horror manga quite a bit as well, but that's neither here nor there. When it comes to the art, I'm always intrigued, and I'm always looking at how manga and anime just kind of converge on several points, right? Where anime adaptations often crib directly from the source material, and new manga, when they come out, are informed by the idea that one day maybe this could be an anime. And they kind of frame and they block their scenes, even with sequential art like in manga, almost to feel like a television show. We saw this with Getter Robo, The Evolution. We saw this in Ultraman as well, books that we have either talked about and also really enjoy. And I really see that in Kaiju No. 8. You see lots of establishing shots, which also show the passage of time, right? Because a lot of time passes in Kaiju No. 8, surprisingly enough.
Kaiju No. 8 is one of the most shovel-ready comics that I have seen to be made into an anime right away. Characters are distinct, but expressive, clear, very you can easily see this on the screen, no problem.
They're almost too expressive, right? Where you have a lot of comedic takes in this book, and those are very love or hate, I feel. Like a lot of characters make what you would call the eponymous gonk face, but this mangaka has a history of doing comedic work, so having that context, I'm much more accepting of it.
The best shonen manga always has come from a joke writer. Dragon Ball, written by a joke writer.
Okay, here we go. We're doing the Toriyama riff now.
Well, yeah, Toriyama. He was good at creating joke manga.
Look, so I love Toriyama, but okay.
He was good at creating action. You got to make the people laugh, and then you can make them then you can have people fight.
You might have a point there. I mean, we even see a lot of comedy in manga that traditionally dark manga like Berserk. There's a ton of comedy in Berserk.
You got to cut the tension somehow with all the terrible things that happen in Berserk.
Yeah, all for our boy Miura.
Yeah, that's just sad.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that right now. We'll cry about it later.
Maybe another episode. We'll do a full retrospective about how Berserk has changed our lives and the lives of everybody.
I think there are people who've done it better than us, but I'd like to give it a crack.
I would agree.
I think we owe someone who has given us something quite like that at least one good go.
He dedicated his entire life to creating a story that he really believed in, and I truly believe he gave himself to it. And
I mean, clearly.
it's sad that he's gone and we won't get to see the end of it.
Well, we are getting Chapter 364, so there is that. So, and at the time of this recording, Chapter 364 is not out yet, but rest assured, we are both looking forward to it. It is one of the few pleasures we get whenever we are out in the colonies like this.
That would be, I wonder, but let's get back to Kaiju number 8.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry.
I could talk about Berserk all night, but
Kaiju
number 8 is a fantastic series from an art perspective.
Oh, yeah.
It does. He definitely has the kind of hand of an older, more experienced mangaka. He doesn't have any weaknesses. Every mangaka, when you get started, a lot of them, you can see even in their early works how rough some of it is, how hard it is in some places, and what they're missing, and what things that they're difficult. Like another series that's out in Shonen Jump right now is Mashal.
Yeah, Mashal.
And that's a super...
Are we going to talk about Mashal?
Well, that's a super rough... Like, it's become successful, and it's continuing its serialization, but especially early on, that art is rough in some...
I hear that it gets much better. I was very turned off by Mashal. The concept is ridiculous, but it's just... I'm not sure if it's for me.
It's the art improves in some ways, but in some ways he's just going to accept that that's his style,
sure.
and it's going to look like that. But I would definitely say this series has a much better command of all the parts of the art. It does the action well, it does the expression well, it nails the little moments.
Again, I really love the establishing shots in this series because if I didn't know any better, I would think that the artist was referencing these. I would think that Matsumoto was referencing like some of these shots, like when you look at like hospital shots, you look at city shots, if you look at destroyed city shots, even though there's a lot of kaiju muscle and tissue and ichor everywhere, ichor, what have you, you still get this sense of scale whenever you're looking at panels in this manga. Never mind the fact that the fight scenes, which, let's be honest, a lot of us are here just for really sick, nasty fights, they're fantastic. They are choreographed well. Matsumoto does this really fun technique where he takes like snapshots of a character's motions and just uses those as after images to convey speed or to convey power. And it's something I really enjoy when looking through that manga. It's one of those manga that if you really want to just bust through it quickly, you can. Like, it's a very quick read on the whole. I actually reread the whole thing over the course of an afternoon just for review for this, but it was nice going through it a second and then even a third time just to like really appreciate like some of the work that Matsumoto does on this piece, on Kaiju number 8.
And that's where I do think that the benefit of not necessarily being married to a weekly schedule is beneficial.
Oh, yeah, you can definitely see that. He's able to put everything into each chapter release. Never mind that even when he's off week, he still does omake pieces.
Yeah, I mean, those are cute. But, it's the kind of art that you can really enjoy. And I think there is a certain thing that is forgotten by people who follow week to week is how this stuff will look when it's collected, once it's reached its tankobon, or when it's put into any sort of collected volume. And this is for Western comics, too. But, some stuff really does pay off that you had the art and you got the high quality of art all the way through. And that's kind of a thing when you see weekly guys, this is especially a problem with Tagashi and Hunter x Hunter. That he would do art and then he would have to redo it almost entirely for the tankobon release because he's such a meticulous artist, but it's clear that the stuff he was turning in from a week to week just wasn't up to his standards.
I recall a moment in time when Hunter x Hunter was coming out sporadically, and then there's this plot point about a really beautiful jewel, something that the world has never seen. There's only one thing like it, and you finally see it in the manga if you're reading it as it's coming out, and it's just a circle. It's unadorned. There's no detail. There's nothing. And while I don't fault Tagashi for having health issues or having like struggles when it comes to making his art, it's just one of those things where you're really looking forward to something. You're just disappointed to see this happen to somebody. When you know they're capable of great stuff, you just really want them to be at their best. And ultimately, if I have to wait for Hunter x Hunter, I will. Like, there's no question about that. I want that series to come back. I would like to keep reading it. But if it's a choice between more Hunter x Hunter and Togashi being unhealthy, I can go without Hunter x Hunter if I have to.
I will take Hunter x Hunter even if Tagashi's unhealthy.
It's monstrous. It's super fucked up.
I love it so much though, and I want to see his vision. And now with Miura gone, I live in a constant world of fear that Hunter x Hunter will not finish.
No, you can't speak of those things. Like, you can't worry about the what ifs of life. You can only worry about what is in front of you. And in particular, when it comes to Kaiju number 8, I tend to worry the most about what's happening scene to scene. Like, the transitions into Kaiju number 8 are seamless. You never really notice when something is abrupt in that series. You simply roll with the action. You accept the conceits of the series almost implicitly. And I think that is what makes this series really special. Never mind the fact that when it comes to character designs and monster designs, character designs are not terribly egregious. You see, again, they're somewhat tropey to a certain extent, but they're also very aggressive. They have a hard edge to them. Or they have a high degree of polish in order to convey what that character is about. You know, when you look at Vice Captain Hoshina as an example, he's small, he's fox-eyed, he's svelte, he's quick, and he's dangerous. Whereas when you see Kaiju number 8 in action, the design is rough, it's powerful, it's almost ungainly, it's dangerous.
There's nothing necessarily wrong with using tropes as long as they're used well and they're used in some way that they're not completely ripped off and derivative of works that came before. There's nothing wrong with using them. You just have to use them well. They're like any other brush in an artist's box. You just have to use your tropes well, and you have to use your tropes in a way that allows you the freedom to work and expand upon other parts of the setting, because once you use those tropes and you use those characters that are a little bit stock, you add some of your own flair and some of your own touch to it. It opens up space to work with other concepts, to do something new that is at the same time recognizable to people.
And that's the thing, when you use tropes really well, it allows you to execute in a way that keeps things very tight, very consistent. And if there's anything I can say about Kaiju number 8, the storytelling, the framing, the action, it's all very, very tight. It is a well-oiled machine of a series. And in 50 chapters, I wonder if it's going to be the same thing. I will say that by chapter 41, you do see that things are starting to shift again, but not necessarily in a bad way, right? And never mind, I do want to talk about the monster designs just for a bit. But what do you think about them? Because I see a lot of love of course, kaiju film, but also like really weird movies like Matango in particular, about like mushroom monsters, or even like a love of like television shows like Tokusatsu or Super Sentai, where the threats of the day are presented as very direct threats, but they're used in really interesting ways.
Kaiju number 8 is, if nothing else, it is a riff on the original Ultraman series.
Oh, yeah, I think no question there.
Where a man joins the defense force against monsters, but is also harboring a secret that he himself has superpowers. He is a monster, but he's a good monster. Except people don't necessarily understand that. It's very Ultraman. It's very Ultraman. The dark side of it, the thing that makes it a twist, is that they fear Kaiju number 8. They do not love him like people love Ultraman.
No, they don't embrace Kaiju number 8 as like some kind of savior. Whether it remains to be seen is up for debate. By all means, if you have predictions, let us know. But something that interests me is the design of Kaiju number 9. I was getting really heavy Belmar vibes from Kaiju number 9, which is one of the principal antagonists of the Ultraman series, both the original as well as the new manga adaptation that is out.
I believe the word you are looking for is Bemular.
Bemular, yeah. Yep. We'll cut this in post.
Yeah, we'll cut your mistakes. Your misunderstanding of Bemular or Baltan or...
Yeah, Bemular.
And I'm not even a big Ultraman fan.
Okay, starting from the beginning. Something I really like about the monster designs, you look at Kaiju number 9, he bears a strong resemblance to Bemular. So, from the Ultraman, both the original series as well as one of the newer manga that is out as well.
Another competing giant monster manga that is currently running that has a lot of hype behind it and already has an anime adaptation.
Does it have a lot of hype behind it? Enough to get a Netflix series, but we all know how we feel about Netflix shows, I believe. I know that personally, while we like the fact that Netflix is producing these things, we would love to see smoother animation, in particular. Just smoother animation, please.
It's incredibly hit or miss, the stuff that comes out of Netflix. But I will tell you that I'm sure that they enjoy the house that the Netflix money buys.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, like, they're doing well enough to get the money, the Netflix money. Gets good for them.
I mean, money is money. So, but we're in a good place here, right? We could probably start talking about things that are a bit spoilerish. And yes, it's a shorter series. It's relatively new. But in order to fully enjoy the series, we do think that you should just look at it with fresh eyes, have a fresh perspective on it. We don't want to ruin that for you. So, feel free to tune out. Check us out again once you catch up, and listen in and hear what our inane thoughts are. We're going to cut in the spoilers here in just a minute.
Lock yourself in your parents' room with your tablet, read every chapter of Kaiju number 8, and then come back.
Don't lock yourself in your parents' rooms. Don't do that.
No. You can do that. That's fine.
Don't do that.
Like, nobody will get mad at you. It's fine. You will totally be fine.
No, please don't do that.
All right, well, just read the chapters, and I don't give a shit then.
Okay, see, that's what we can ask. Just read it, please.
All right, then. Well, anyway, so if we're going to get into the spoilers of this part of this, I like where this is going. I think it's going really fast, and I'm almost kind of afraid that I'm not getting to enjoy one part of it because things are moving forward so fast. But I really like it. I like to see the cool fucking kaiju-made weapons.
Oh, yeah, those are so sick. Like, yeah, when Shinomiya gets her specially made weapon, even though she's definitely not deserving of it, but they just need the help because they're that desperate. It's just a big fucking axe. It's so cool.
And her dad, who's like the fucking boss of the entire like kaiju killing agency, uses a weapon that only he's strong enough to use, and it's from the hollowed out bones of Kaiju number 2. And this dude is a real hard guy, tough guy, big body, doesn't fuck around.
Oh yeah, there's a sequence where Kafka is brought into custody and he has to duke it out with the big boss of this agency, and he's like, "You're not human, you're a kaiju," and he just goes hard into him, but you get the sense that he's giving him a chance to prove his humanity. And that's a big question I think the series is probably going to be asking a lot going forward. Kafka is, for all intents and purposes, he presents as a human, but he has the heart of a kaiju. He possesses a core. He doesn't possess as they would say in the manga, a frail human heart.
Yeah, the core is the element of all kaijus that has to be destroyed in order to destroy the kaijus, which, since you've read it at this point, you already know. He's got that core that makes him a kaiju. No human can deflect bullets with their skin. That is only a trait given to kaiju. And their suits, like Gantz, are freaking engineered from monsters as well.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like, they have these suits that are made out of kaiju muscle fiber. And it's very reminiscent of the suits that are seen in Gantz, as you said, where it's like, hey, how did you make these? We make these out of the things that you kill. In Gantz, it's aliens. In this, it's kaiju, which maybe they're aliens, maybe they're not.
We'll say the suits in Kaiju number 8 are a lot less revealing for the women.
Surprisingly enough, I mean, there are really no titty monsters in Kaiju number 8. It's just not that big of a deal. Yes, there are beauties, there are hard bodies, there are father bods, but no one's really being sexually exploited in a way that you would see from other shows, especially like your mid-2000s to like 2010 style shonen manga.
Well, it doesn't really have ecchi content. And
no, it doesn't.
I think that works to its benefit in terms of wanting to be something that crosses over and finds success with the widest audience possible, is to not lean into that. Now, there is success in that. Like, Ayakashi Triangle is in Jump right now. It does well enough. It's by the guy who did To Love Ru, and it is as filthy as any series he's ever done, except for Darkness.
When I think of Weekly Shonen Jump, I think of We Never Learn, which is, man, I can't believe that's for kids.
It is for the children.
Yeah, I mean, is it for the development of the children, or is it to hurt them? Because, I mean, I can't speak. That's how flustered I am. we never learn is something I'm not sure it's even for me. I'm not sure I'm old enough to really fully enjoy and experience that.
I mean, the average Jump reader just keeps getting older, but
I mean, that might be one of the things that really resonates with people who might like Kaiju number 8, and that this is a story that for people like us, I mean, we're a bit older. We relate to some of the themes that are here. Definitely.
That's why I like Kaiju number 8. It's an unapologetically a series about a guy who's in his early to mid 30s, and you don't usually see that in shonen. That's just not done. And here is probably one of the first shonen series that I've ever seen, especially in a big one from Shueisha, that is 100% behind a main character in his 30s. He's not a teenager. He's not a 12-year-old trying to awaken his secret demon powers and his bloodline. He is a guy who is fundamentally trying to succeed, and not always succeeding, but always trying his best.
Well, that's the thing. It's he has a youthful heart, which I think is really what makes it more of a shonen series than a seinen series. It doesn't come at you with this awful, crushing depression of accepting yourself. Though there are definitely moments in the series, such as when he's going through the PT test in order to become a general officer, where he places dead fucking last because, well, he's in his 30s. He's not going to compete with these hard-bodied 20-year-olds in terms of running, jumping, climbing, tumbling. It's just not going to happen. Even though he could cheat, he chooses not to because he feels like it's unfair to others, which is a very, very, very wholesome, very shonen trait for a character.
So the power levels in this series is how much you can draw out of your muscles, sir.
There are two kinds of power levels, really, right? You have power levels for kaiju, which are measured in the same way as magnitude for earthquakes, but it's called fortitude. And then you have power suits, and the percentage that you can draw from the suit itself.
So, the higher your percentage that you can draw out of this suit, the better you are, the closer you are to being a captain. And Kafka can draw out 1% of his suit.
Initially 0.
Which is, literally as low as it gets. He shouldn't even be allowed to be in this organization with this poor of scores. But because he's gutsy, because he believes in himself, and because other people believe in him, he gets to be in the police.
And really because the vice captain thinks he's funny.
Well, and he believes in him too, and he really wants to push him to be successful. The vice captain is just an awesome character.
Oh, he's a delight. He is possibly my favorite character, next to the newest character they've introduced, the captain of the first division.
Gen Narumi?
Yeah, Narumi is a delight.
Oh,
what a fucking trash monster.
An absolute loser who spends all of his money on Amazon figurines.
Yamazon, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, he spends it all on Yamazon, not Amazon. And he spends all his money trying to get Figumas and other play video games in his fucking room before he goes out there to go kill monsters and campaigns for social media likes.
Oh yeah, he has an amazing moment in the latest chapter where he slays a kaiju in front of children just before they're about to be devoured or worse. And he turns to this boy who's like, "Oh, I'm your biggest fan." And he's like, "You know what? Hey now, brat, you'll have to pay for addressing a distinguished captain without a title. Get back home alive and use your mom's phone to post Captain Narumi is so cool 10 times to social media." That's based. That's so fucking awesome.
He really goes between looking like an absolute loser and when it's business time, look cool as fuck.
Well, his whole philosophy is he doesn't stand in ceremony with people. He doesn't care about the pomp and circumstance of being part of a paramilitary organization. He just wants to see you put in the work. If you could do the job and you could do it well, you can ball with him. If you can't, you're gone.
He's the Al Davis of monster hunting. He runs the Raiders, and he just wants to win. He doesn't care if you do drugs. He doesn't care if you party too much. He cares about getting those rings.
Oh, no.
That's why John Madden's his coach. And then, oh my God.
Oh, man.
Is the guy who run the organization, is that John Madden?
That's John Madden. Yeah.
So John Madden is in there, and he's getting these players together. And he's like, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you party. I don't even care if you play baseball part-time in the other season. I just need you to come here and win, baby.
See, I view Narumi as more of like a Ron Artest type, and that like you can rely upon him to square up with fans.
He's meta world peace, and he doesn't do those things anymore.
Yeah, well, we need Ron Artest. We don't need meta world peace anymore. But this isn't a Barstool Sports podcast from 7 or 8 years ago, unfortunately. Oh,
I'm just saying sometimes you got to push someone down, and it's not wrong, but you got to win. You got to push someone down.
Well, that's the thing. Again, it speaks to how fast the series is moving because they take a tragedy that happens when Kaiju number 10 shows up with an army of Wyvern Kaiju, which are normally known to act independently of one another. And he's riding these bad boys like a boss, and he shows up and he just likes fights. Like he wrecks a base, and the 3rd Division, of which Kafka and the rest of the supporting cast are members of, they get split up because their base is trashed, and they take Shinomiya, they take Kiriko, and they put her in with the 1st Division. They embed her within the 1st Division, and who knows where the rest have gone, right? But they also put Kafka there as well, and at this point he's been revealed to be a kaiju. He is considered an enemy of humanity by and large, but they think he's useful as a weapon.
This is the kind of development that you wouldn't see until like chapter 100 or even further than that in some other series. He does not mess around with this. He gets into it. He gets into it quick, and when something is he feels that a storyline's finished, moves it on to the next one. They've gone from the 3rd Division, they've gone to training, and now he's in the 1st Division, which is like the top dog, big baller, shot callers, all elites, everybody's top gun.
Too sweet. I will say that you even see what the 1st Division is capable of. They have the best gear, the coolest tools, the most support. They kill a not Godzilla at some point. So
it's Top Gun, all Mavericks.
All Mavericks. Oops, all Mavericks. But that's the thing. It's like even when you look at like the excellence that's present, most of the characters, like even an officer by the end of their career only taps into 20, maybe 30% of like the power available to their suit. You have people who are tapping into 92% of the power of their suit.
Yeah, there's a massive chasm between even the people who are considered to be good at their jobs and the ultra elite that are just at the top of the game. The real deal killers, the kind of guys out there that can actually go up to a numbered kaiju and fight them. And that's one of the things I wanted to get into about some of the kaijus, because it would seem that the numbered kaiju hitherto they didn't talk. But the ones, kaiju, obviously kaiju number 8, our main character talks, but also kaiju number 9 and kaiju number 10. Also, they fucking taunt the people that they fight.
Oh, I love kaiju number 10. He's probably my favorite, even though kaiju number 9 gives you real like Yoshikage Kira vibes in a lot of ways, where he's devious, he's sadistic, he's not an idiot. Like, he toys with the protagonists and the supporting characters. But Kaiju number 10 just wants to party. He's rowdy as fuck. He just wants to get into fights.
I'm imagining that Kaiju number 9 is endgame for this series.
Oh, I would think so.
And that's how it's going to end up. Because this dude, like, he's a real bad dude with attitude. From the moment he appears, he's playing a game with everybody, and there's definitely a time that he's going to come back in and he's going to really start fucking things up.
I mean, Kaiju number 9 is super appealing once you realize that he's absolutely just toying with people, where he has the ability to revive Yoju. It takes a lot out of him, of course. He is able to take on the appearances of people he has killed, it seems. He essentially adopts their lives in order to move through society. And it appears that he has help in order to move around human society. But up until those put in the manga, there is nothing that hints towards that. We don't know who his benefactors might be, if they even exist.
There's a bomb that's going to drop. I'm absolutely certain that there's a part of this series that a bomb is going to drop that will quote-unquote change everything you know about this world.
Right.
And from that point on, that's when we start to enter the end game, where you got to put society right, like in My Hero Academia, where everything's fucked, and now you got to like put things right again. or you fail and society just collapses.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even when you look at like the world building of this series, like whenever a supporting character gets serious screen time in this manga, you learn just enough about them to be interesting, but no one ever overstays their welcome. It's as if every character really does have a purpose in this manga. Some of them do check boxes for sure. You have a guy with a pompadour, I'm all about that. But even he has a reason to be there. He wants to be stronger. He sees his comrades struggle in spite of themselves, and he's wondering why he can't squeeze more power out of his suit.
One of the things I do notice is that not enough characters have died. And I say that I do.
It's only 40 chapters.
I mean, I say that, but like, I want to see more characters die. These are horrifying monsters that are scary and deadly, and yet nobody major has died. Nobody's really like paid the iron price on this.
I definitely feel like it's coming for sure. Did you just do a Game of Thrones quote? God damn.
I definitely did a Game of Thrones quote incorrectly.
Ooh, man.
Because paying the iron price is a sweet thing about stealing from people.
That stays
and how awesome it is.
Yeah, this stays. That's so good. That being said, I mean, you get like glimpses of how people would feel about that too, right? Because a lot of characters, they have their big moments in the manga so far whenever they are sacrificing themselves, body and all, to make sure other people can live another day. Even when Kaiju No. 8, even when Kafka is fighting against Commander Shinomiya, he is just like, I would feel terrible if I killed you. He's like, I'm just so glad I didn't do anything that I would have regretted. I wouldn't be able to face your daughter. And that like gets to the commander, if only for a moment, right? Where it's just like, oh, he's a kaiju, but he still has a human heart, so to speak.
Well, you can only put characters up against the wall so many times without people, naturally asking, like, okay, well, when's someone going to actually get like pushed up against the wall and then have someone finish them off? That's the thing about dramatic stakes. You can keep raising them, but eventually someone's got to die.
Like, I'm a little shocked the vice commander doesn't bite it, because he goes, like, he has to request permission to release his limiters, his bankai, as it were, for those of you who just, like, can't get over Bleach. And he goes, like, full bore for 10 fucking minutes, and then he exceeds the limit. He overheats, which is whenever you push yourself beyond what you're capable of while wearing one of these suits, like, that's it. You can't draw out the same amount of power as before. And we see that he only can get, like, in like the 50s or 60s percentile after having overheated. He can't cut as deep anymore. He can't go as fast. He just can't put in the work. And you would think that this would be his moment, where since he's the one who's in charge, like the base has been left in his command, that he's going to sacrifice himself to make sure the new rookies, like the shining stars of Japan's future, are going to survive. And it's kind of a shame that he doesn't sacrifice himself there, but he's such a cool character that I'm glad he's still around.
I mean, I fucking love the character, but at the same time, I'm like, you probably should have killed him. It'd be easier for everybody, and every shonen series ends up with too many goddamn characters as it is. That's
my big fear. That is definitely a big fear for this, is that it's going to fall victim to a absolute like rogues gallery of also-rans, like people who just don't matter. It hasn't happened yet, because most of the characters have been introduced, even the minor ones, are still interesting. They either help flesh out the world, or they add something to the third division, at least before they get split up. That being said, when it comes to the series itself, it would be nice if the arc involving Monster Sweepers Incorporated, the Kaiju Breakdown service, would have lasted a bit longer. Do you think they're going to revisit that at some point, or maybe it could be good material for a spin-off?
Oh, I think in today's day and age, a spin-off, especially around the time an anime starts to become a formulating thing that's going to be put out in there, I think a spin-off is almost guaranteed. Look at My Hero. They have Vigilantes, which is wrapping up as well. In some ways, better than the original series that it spawned it. But, long-running spin-offs, that's a jump staple at this point. If something becomes successful, you do a spin-off. Look at Naruto. It has several spin-offs.
Certainly does.
One Piece, one of the few that more or less resisted a long-term spin-off. But, hell, it's
been going on forever at this point.
Most comics, most successful books, especially around the time they're going to get an anime, a spin-off becomes a very easy thing to do. You hand it off to someone who kind of has a similar art style to the guy and you work out from there.
Or you have like the original mangaka or even like the writer or the artist, right? If it happens to be a duo, to assist or like otherwise advise that production. Speaking of which, I know that you like to predict things. Like you're something of a gambler. Where do you think this series is going to end up? Because I'm more than happy to revisit this in about 50 chapters or so, even like after it hits chapter 100, assuming it goes on that long, just to see where we are. I think that it's going to adhere hard and fast to some of the shonen conventions that we have, right? I think that it's going to be bigger monsters, deeper mysteries, sicker fights.
I think that what we're going to do, and I think it's going to end at around chapter 100. That's my guesstimate. Is I think we're about halfway through the story right now, and I don't think he's going to go for like a super long time. So what I'm guessing will happen is that it's going to turn out that the monsters have already taken over society on some level and have like integrated themselves into the upper echelons. And they're pulling the strings in ways that we don't yet understand. And it's going to be main character against the government to save the world. And all the loyal soldiers are going to fight to try and save the country once and for all from kaiju.
I think that's a really interesting take, honestly. I do think that when it comes to the kaiju, there's going to be a deeper revelation, right? Like the kaiju have to have a purpose in this setting. They can't just be mindless monsters because we see that some of them are, but they all kind of fall in line, at least thus far, whenever a intelligent kaiju makes an appearance. And we are just now seeing kaiju who scheme, who plan, who act, for lack of a better way of putting it, human.
You know, I would say, like, if you're going to look at one, look at Attack on Titan.
Oh, sure.
Another series that just ended. Kind of a similar arc there where you have the giant monsters. You don't understand where they're coming from. And a big part of the back end of that series is explaining what the fuck are these giant naked monsters doing.
Oh, yeah. And don't get me wrong, like the ending of that's super controversial. We don't want to talk about it here because while this is spoilers for Kaiju number 8, we don't want you to be blindsided by spoilers for Attack on Titan. We know there's anime-only people out there. I understand that, as there are definitely times in my life where I'm an anime-only person. I've started watching the anime. I just want to finish it out. That being said, I'm definitely flipped when it comes to certain productions. Like, for example, Demon Slayer. I was an anime-only person, been reading the manga. I think that's something we'll probably be discussing in the future. Let us know what you think. If you want to hear that, definitely let us know. If you have your own predictions about Kaiju number 8, more than happy to hear them out from you. In any case, I'm not sure I have much more I can contribute here. I think that our broadcast should be cut, otherwise we will be found out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that, the Federales are going to be coming in here soon to, gas the colony or, put us...
Whoa.
Yeah, no, they've never done that. They would never. The Federation would never commit war crimes. But one thing I will give credit to is the guy who did Demon Slayer. He walked away at the top of the game. Can't do any better than number 1.
That's the thing. I think we're going to see more and more mangaka doing exactly that because they want to have the freedom to either pursue other projects or simply just to live their lives and enjoy what they have.
I mean, not everyone's insane like Oda, who just loves to do One Piece and will do it forever.
I mean, even Oda's cut back on their schedule, right?
Yes, we get a chapter every other week now.
Well, in any case, thank you all for tuning in to Side 3 Free Radio. We'll be signing out from here. I'm your world-weary salaryman.
This is Russ Tornado.
All right.
Signing off.
See you next week.